2 of Aviation Future Week. So excited to see you all here today. Before we begin, let's start with a quick welcoming video.
What begins as a small seed of an idea can grow into a mighty transformation. We started small and grew to become one of the world's largest and most successful international airlines. Hand in hand with a city that sees no limits, together we never stop pushing at the edges of possibility. Knowing the key to a better future is investment in the best technology. That hasn't changed. Our vision of the future is just as ambitious as it always was. We're striding into a new era of aviation. As passenger demand continues to rise, we can't be held back. We must invest in cutting-edge technology today to make Dubai the global aviation hub of tomorrow. We must ask ourselves, how can we use the latest technology to meet demand and expectations and create the best passenger experience? How can we create intelligent cargo systems that keep the world moving? And how can we use the huge advances in AI to transform the way we work? We're embracing the digital revolution to position Dubai as the world's best connection hub and leisure travel destination, creating an inspiring vision for the future of aviation. We believe the possibilities are endless.
Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, welcome to day 2. My name is Katie Overy, and once again, I'm really happy to be your MC for the next 2 days. Now, yesterday, you may or may not have been here, but we kicked off with some incredibly insightful discussions on optimizing passenger experiences, managing traffic demand, and embracing cutting-edge technology within airports. It was inspiring, quite honestly, to see how our industry is tackling these challenges head-on with innovation at the core. Today, we're going to shift our focus very slightly to freight demand, to logistics centers, and the role of technology that is actually shaping the future of the industry of aviation. As the global supply chain landscape evolves, logistics centers simply must adapt to handle rising e-commerce demands, explore new routes amidst geopolitical shifts, and adopt sustainability practices. We're going to dive, of course, into the impact of AI, IoT, predictive analytics, and just how these technologies are driving efficiency in logistics. We're also, of course, going to hear from some incredible experts on how autonomous vehicles and drones are revolutionizing last-mile delivery and the importance of reducing the carbon footprint in logistics operations. Later, we will shift to MROs and hear from Joramco, Rolls-Royce, GE, and Jamco about how they are overcoming supply chain disruptions, incorporating new technologies, and supporting airlines in our post-COVID world. It's going to be a fantastic day ahead, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm extremely excited to be here with you for it. With that, we will start with a welcoming note. Please welcome to the stage Deputy Executive Director of the Museum of the Future. Please welcome Majid Al-Mansouri.
Thank you, Katie, and good morning. I'm honored to welcome you here at the Museum of the Future. When I was invited to address you here today, I thought to myself, what can I possibly say to a room full of aviation experts that they don't already know? Yesterday, we heard fascinating discussions about the future of passenger and terminal and in the air. Later today, you will hear sharing insights about engineering, maintenance, and freight demand and logistics. I won't pretend to have any meaningful contributions on those topics. You're all far more qualified than I am. But what I can talk about is how aviation has impacted my life. Before I came on stage today, I asked many people here what were the first words that sprang to their minds when they thought about Dubai. I heard progressive. I heard futuristic. I heard it's the place to be. As an Emirati, that fills me with great pride when I hear these words describe my home. But it wasn't always like this here. These images were shot very close to where we are right now, only a few decades ago. Even today, you don't have to travel very far away from here to find places that still look quite similar to the images you see here. So the question is, what changed here? It was a vision for the future that only few others could see at the time. Thanks to the bravery and foresight of the founding fathers and the vision of one man, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, we embarked upon one of the world's greatest economic experiments. We opened up to the world, becoming a hub for industries like tourism, like real estate, shipping, financial services, and much, much more. Within a single lifespan, we transformed from a fishing village to the modern metropolis you see here today. When I was growing up here in the 90s, I witnessed the tide of change. Whether the different heritages or cultures of the students that I worked with or that I studied with in school. Whether it was the first trip that my mother took me to Burj Al Arab in the early 2000s. The mindset shift between my generation and my parents. The experience of Dubai becoming a place where people from all around the world, from the Arab world and elsewhere, would come to relax and be open. None of this would have been possible without aviation, your industry, which has been central to our success story. Aviation has helped us connect east to west, north to south, not just geographically or economically, but also culturally. When you come here today, it doesn't matter whether you're from Karachi or Kolkata, or Shanghai or San Francisco. Everyone feels at home in Dubai. It's a unique experiment that continues to grow from strength to strength. Aviation continues to play a critical role in our success story. In 2023, nearly 87 million people passed through Dubai, making our airport the busiest in the world for international passengers for 10 years in a row. Much of that success is down to the people that are assembled here today. I think you deserve a round of applause. But we're only just getting started. By the time Al Maktoum International Airport expands in 2032, just 8 years from now, it will be able to handle almost double the existing traffic with more than 160 million passengers every year. To put that into perspective, that's more than the entire population of Russia. That's 16 times the population of the UAE, both citizens and residents. That's an average of more than 440,000 people every single day. And ultimately, by 2050, the airport will be 5 times the size of DXB, accommodating over 260 million passengers annually. While these numbers are astounding, we must not just think of them as numbers on a balance sheet or names on boarding passes. Each of these travelers embodies individual stories. They embody dreams. They embody ideas. And that's where the Museum of the Future plays a special role. You see, just like Dubai itself, this museum is not just a place. It's a state of mind. We're here to be a unique experiment. We're here to transform ideas into reality. We're here to be a forum where the world's most curious and innovative and creative minds are here to find solutions and opportunities for the future of humanity. This week, that honor falls upon you. You are the industry expert. You are the visionaries. You are the policymakers that will change air travel for the better. In March next year, just 5 months from now, Emirates Airline will celebrate its 40th birthday. Back in 1985, well, I guess it requires a... In 1985, Emirates Airline comprised of 2 aircrafts loaned from the Pakistan International Airlines, just 3 destinations, Mumbai, Karachi, and Delhi. Today, Emirates boasts 248 passenger aircraft, 12 cargo aircraft. It serves 137 destinations globally. It connects people with more than 3,000 flights every single week. What's more, Emirates Airline has become a global ambassador for brand Dubai. It's synonymous with first-rate service and hospitality. Whether you're flying from Toronto or Tokyo, your experience in Dubai starts as soon as you step on board. And of course, we must not forget the contributions of other major airlines. Fly Dubai, Etihad, Air Arabia, Wizz Air. They continue to fuel the economic and social development of our country and the region at large. All of you here today, and those who came before you, have achieved so much in under 4 decades. This week, let's set the stage for an even more remarkable future ahead. We are counting on you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Amazingly powerful opening words. Thank you. Right, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We have our first panel discussion coming up in about 2 minutes' time. We'll be back very soon. Thank you. Senior Vice President, Cargo Planning and Freighters of Emirates. Ram Manan, ex-Emirates Sky Cargo founding member. Hamdi Osman, founder and CEO of Solitaire Cargo Airline. Robert Fry, global SVP, air freight of DP World. And our moderator this morning is Guillaume Crozier, Senior Vice President for UAE Cargo and Global Cargo Strategy of Denata. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, just a reminder, please, to keep conversation to a minimum if you're not within the auditorium due to the panel. Thank you so much.
Can you? Excellent. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much indeed. Very inspiring words from Majid already. And what a great place actually for us to discuss about the perspective of freight demand and logistics center. I have to say I'm very impressed with the quality of the panel and also a great mix with all the key stakeholders being represented, as you can see. I think they are all very famous, but when it comes to forwarding and logistics, Robert, with a lot of experience working for Penalpina, and now, of course, DSV and others, big freight forwarder, will bring a very strong logistic freight forwarding lens, which is great. Hamdi Osman, who has worked and led regionally FedEx for a lot of years, 30 years, knows very well the express integrator business and gonna bring us a very strong lens when it comes to the integrator business model. And also you're gonna talk about what it does today, nowadays, bringing a middle mile regional airline solution in the mix. We have Ram Menem. Do I have to explain about Ram Menem credential? I think it's all very well known here. Ram has started Sky Cargo and successfully handed over back in 2013 to the next generation who has made it even greater. So fantastic. And of course, last but not least, Nadim Sultan, who has worked with many airlines, specialized in freighter planning and network planning, working for Sky Cargo today. Who's best to facilitate all the stakeholders of this industry, but a ground handling agent? Of course, that sounds like a good mix. Great. So let's start, I think, to set the scene together about what is the situation when it comes to the freight industry and the logistic center development. I will be really grateful to hear from all of the guests today on that question, how you see the situation nowadays. You will describe actually the key features of the market as we speak. Should we start with Nadim, maybe?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. I think it's the perfect setting when we're talking about the future of aviation to be in the Museum of the Future. As Guillaume mentioned, with regards to, I would say, the current market state, things are very, very robust. I think globally, demand is very strong, expected to remain strong for a number of reasons. Obviously, e-commerce is one of them, along with general economic growth all across. And of course, us being here in Dubai, being in a central location geographically, Dubai is day by day becoming more and more important in terms of global air trade flows. Whether it's the flowers that we're carrying from Ecuador to China, whether it's the fish we're carrying from Finland to Japan, Dubai is really in the middle, and we see how important Dubai is becoming as a global air trade hub.
Thank you very much, Nadim. Ram?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I mean, it's been a long time that I've been here and up on the stage. Thank you, Adil, for the invitation. It's really appreciated. I mean, I have a very interesting position right now because I'm not directly involved in what's going on in the day-to-day operations, but I have a better overview of the world in terms of what's happening. And it's interesting that since the last four years, I would say, the COVID era completely changed the dynamics of the business as a whole. And Nadim, you said about e-commerce. If you really look at when did the e-commerce get a shot in the arm, It was during the early part of the century when SARS, though for those who were around, remember, that's when the e-commerce got a boost. Second boost has now come during the COVID. It kept the demand up. Now, there were two things were happening. I mean, the need for the PPEs and everything related to COVID and the e-commerce, they were both getting a shot in the arm. Now, coming out of that, the demand has, despite the cyclical nature of the business, kept on. And part of the reason that the air cargo side of the business has got this demand, high demand, more than what it should be in technically, is because the lack of new feed freighters coming into the market. And COVID created supply chain issues, which is still going on. On top of that, some of the Boeing's issues with the MAX, 737 MAX series, that has delayed the feedstock of the 737s coming into the market. Now, Boeing has just closed down the 767 freighter production. So that is again going to slow down the capacity that's going to come into the market, which means with the growth of e-commerce and everything else, you are going to see the demand exceeding the supply, which will then keep the yields at a level where the freighters become viable. If that hadn't happened, your yields would have reverted back to 2018 and 2019, and the world would have gone into a bloodbath again. So going forward, is the demand going to disappear? No, I don't think so. I think the e-commerce today is about 20% of the total air cargo volume that's going on. And that's going at the rate of about 20 to 25%, whereas the traditional cargo is growing at the pace of 2 to 3 to 4%. Will the traditional cargo disappear? No, because to have the e-commerce moving, you have the components and all the other supply chain that goes on to produce these commodities still going on. So the demand is going to be strong for the next 3 to 4 years, foreseeable. Of course, everything could change if there is a major conflict. And all these China and the US trade conflicts, don't worry about it. I mean, what China produces, the world cannot live without. So the China plus one strategy or China plus two strategy, it might go with Vietnam plus China strategy. That's the way it's going to go. But the demand will stay for the foreseeable future.
Great insights already, Ram and Nadim. I mean, at this stage, we secure the points that we see the growth actually continuing and actually to sustain. Also, the diversity, the mix of how things going to be done actually. The challenges already when it comes to aircraft supply for different reasons you explained. And also the new landscape and the new perspective of all the new stakeholders stepping in that market. Interesting scene that we are drawing together. And of course, later we'll discuss what are the strengths of Dubai and how we're going to make it a success here moving forward. But before that, let's continue painting the picture with Hamdi, please.
Sure. Again, thank you, Emirates. Thank you, Mr. Adam Rida. Thank you, Guillaume. One thing I'm going to challenge Ram on this, because Ram retired maybe 10 years ago. The overall market worldwide have grown 17% year over year. In 2003, it took a dip about 2%. However, when I talk about express and cargo overall, worldwide, so far this year, we are tracking about 58 million tons worldwide. Out of that, 15 million tons from our region, which is just to give you a perspective, and our region combined, comparing to most other regions, is the fastest growing region. Middle East, Indian subcontinent, and North and East Africa. That region alone is the fastest growing out of all the region. Now, the 2% that Ram talked about, this is on the freight side. I am Combine the freight, the express, and the e-commerce when you combine them together. Now, with that, it shows that obviously air cargo is not going away. If anything, the air, sea, and ground that we see, air cargo always going to play a major role in this. When I started with FedEx almost a zillion years ago, 44 years, I retired 10 years ago, so I did 34 years, so almost 44 years ago, nobody ever knew that this company will ever go international. Today, majority of the cargo coming from the international, if you look at DHL, UPS, DHL, and now with Prime for Amazon. Are those four integrators today, if you put Turkish Air Cargo and put Emirates Airline alone, that's 5 million tons between the two of them. Now, if you put the FedEx, the DHL, UPS, and Amazon Prime, obviously will take the Prime share into that market because of the freight and the express and the e-commerce. Now, e-commerce, in my opinion, in the next 5 years is going to be the major player, and especially in our region. Because due to the fact is, Africa is not turned on yet. Believe it or not, Amazon as yet has not penetrated any country in Africa. Why I know this? Because we just started a new cargo airline, and it's not traditional cargo. It's a daily scheduled cargo airline, which is, we get into the segment of the 0.5% of the total number. Nothing to do with Emirates Cargo, nothing to do with Qatar Cargo, or we specialize in the dangerous good, the pharmaceutical, and all this specialized time-sensitive cargo. And we fill it with the rest, whatever in there. That alone, when we look at it, it's only 0.5% from the total number. And that number is growing faster than any other commodity. I stop right there because we got a long day to go.
Thank you very much, Andy. So, I mean, we just again secure that point that growth is full pace in front of us. And actually, to have this point, maybe we see some great actually booster to come, especially the African market, right? I think also you make that point about the integrator type of business model, the pace and how fast we need to turn around to cater the demand, the growing demand. So growth, yes, in a specific segment with a specific business model. That becomes really interesting. Before we come back on this point anyway, we just secure the stage so far. Last but not least, on the picture painting. Robert, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity to be here. Obviously, with old friends on the panel makes life interesting and obviously, challenging. Most has been said. Two aspects that I would like to bring into the equation here is obviously our customer behavior as consumers, and the entire customization of products will unavoidably fuel air cargo. Everything that we want is just in time, production becoming obviously more and more difficult to plan. As I said, customization of products, be that cars, be that fashion, be that I don't know what, definitely will add more growth for air cargo. And then the other important aspect, it has been mentioned as well, we have a lot of emerging markets, and if you look at the population growth worldwide, it's going to be Africa outpacing India, and the China population going down. We'll see a lot of demand into these countries, some of them landlocked with not yet fully developed infrastructure. This is where DP World is obviously adding a lot of contribution in building this infrastructure. So from a demand side, I'm not worried, and I've heard it in my 30-odd years so many times that air freight will be dying off, but it's not going to happen. I don't see it.
Really good. Thank you very much, Robert. Ram, please.
Just a question. I just wanted to add on what Hamdi said about the region that's growing. If history is any of relevance, if you go back about 20 years back when Qatar Airways came on the market, when Qatar started pulling business into the region, everybody said, oh, Dubai is going to lose out. No, that is very, very wrong, because whatever your neighbors are doing, now this time around it's Saudi Arabia, they are going to pull tremendous amount of business through the region. All Dubai has got to do is stay ahead of everybody else, and the business stays. And actually, Dubai's growth actually depends on everybody else growing in the region. So it's in the interest of Dubai to grow, to see the others grow.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a very, very strong point. We'll come back on this one. As we paint the picture, now I would like to discuss with you and hear from you actually about how you see in terms of infrastructure being warehouses, free zone, road system, rail, port. I mean, how you see the world, and obviously how you see Dubai leading the way and what needs to be done to keep leading the way to be able to cater and to grow with that growth that we've just depicted, right? So should we come back to me? So Robert first, and then back to me.
Yes, thank you very much. I mean, obviously, DP World in Dubai is a prime example of what the future can look like, and the future is here already. I mean, it's the vicinity of the port to the airport. Obviously, all the authorities working in sync, so customs, everything made easy. That's going to be the future. And then we see, like, obviously countries like India, who are massive in dimension, and there it's also going to be a combination of ports, inland depots, rail connection, and using kind of short sea, even from the north of India to the south, also taking into consideration all the efforts around sustainability. I mean, that's definitely something we need to talk about when we talk air cargo. So yes, port, airport close by, no red tape in between, and that's actually a good recipe for growth.
Thank you very much, Robert. A very important point here we are making. It's not only one way, air or sea, it becomes multimodal, interconnected. We come back on this point for sure. Hamdi.
Well, my view is Dubai are based to be the capital of the world of commerce. The only thing is we have not done in the industry in the last, I've been here 33 years, I don't think we have done an excellent job yet. Maybe we've done a good job, any air, sea, and ground. With due respect to DB World, with due respect to the Emirate Cargo, is not there yet. Just see the growth of passenger, and you created something from nothing. We all know, if you're in aviation, you understand, if you come from east to west or west to east, Bahrain should be the central, not Dubai. You can save 20 minutes traveling time coming through Bahrain. And where Bahrain used to be the Mecca of aviation for the Middle East, Indian subcontinent, Dubai created what they created today, 89 passengers last year, or if I'm correct, do that. What have we done in the cargo industry? We have not got there yet, but we are on something very, very big, which is called the Global South. Global South is the best thing that Dubai can bid on today, which is, as Dubai part of the WLP, which is the World Logistic Passport, which they just had their meeting last week in Hong Kong. If you don't know, Prime Minister Modi have invited 100 countries in India in March. We should be, all the company in Dubai should be in that meeting coming in March to be part of that, because this is movement of all the goods from China to Latin America. That's what the Global South is. Latin America, Africa, Middle East, Indian subcontinent, all the way to China. We should be the capital of that. Dubai should be the base for that. For us to do that, obviously all the freight forwarders should get their stuff together. All the air cargo airlines should get this stuff together. We should all work ground, sea, and air together. Will be able to make Dubai really the central of universe for cargo and especially air cargo.
Thank you very much. And another dimension about, it's not only the infrastructure on the ground that anyway Dubai so far master and have strong plan to grow anyway. It's also about the ties, the business relationship. I have to say, and you mentioned the World Logistic Passport. That was a very successful initiative. I mean, last year, I think we hosted a conference here with the World Logistic Passport Committee. Very visionary, actually, initiative. And I think fair to say that UAE, Dubai, World Logistic Passport has already set the scene. And this is definitely an inspiration for others. They try to look at what's happening. But to your point, guys, at the end, this is already a strength that we need to work on here in UAE and keep developing. A strong point. Thank you very much. Ram.
Well, I'm going to start with, I think Hamdi is being very unfair, saying that Dubai has not reached there. Well, you know, the end, there's no destination as such at the moment because it's a relay race without any finish line, okay? But what Dubai has been instrumental in the world of cargo, I'm not talking about air, I'm talking about the entire transportation industry, both passenger and cargo. Sea air, we started on early around 1983, 84. If I were to describe Dubai, I would say that Dubai is the catalyst for the growth of air cargo and passenger business in the whole of the region. And that is staying ahead. You are the driving force. You have taken the leadership, and we need to continue to have that leadership position. Yes, there's another dimension that has been added on to the cargo hubs. Which are the bigger hubs that's going to be in the future? And that's going to be those hubs will be around facilitation centers. Now, when I talk about Dubai at the moment, Dubai is a cargo center. It's a cargo distribution center. We have air cargo terminals there, we do that. But the future of the business is driven by e-commerce, and the e-commerce is driven by the efficiency of the facilitation centers. So that is very, very critical. So watch where those facilitation centers are going. That's where the growth is going to come for. So what does Dubai, or anybody, any airport, or any country, or any region, they have to go after is to create a facilitation center. A classic example of a new hub that's coming up very, very quickly is Liège in Europe. So that is the dimension that adds on for the future that you need to chase.
Thank you very much, Ram.
Ram, good enough is the enemy of excellence. Move on.
Yeah, really good. Exciting thought, and I think this is the great picture we are actually now painting together. Is a fantastic diagnosis and starting point to make sure we get it right, keeping and leading the way, actually, while we build Al Maktoum International Airport project, which will be the best logistic cluster in the world. And we have all the ingredients with the credentials today already to make it happen. Nadim.
I think a number of things have already been mentioned, but I think one of the things that really stands out, and that's something that we at Emirates discuss quite a bit internally, is that yes, there are a lot of things happening in the region, there are a lot of things happening globally, there are a lot of things happening at our competitors, but we always remind ourselves that we don't need competition. We have to be the critics ourselves. We look very critically at what we do as Emirates every day, and we look at very critically at what Dubai is doing today. Now, people are thinking about Dubai as what we're doing today. We're looking at where we want to be in 10 years from now. And I think that's a very, very key thing. People are looking at aspirations, but our aspirations are going a lot further than where we are today. You touched on DWC, the new Al Maktoum Airport. So for some of you that may know, Dubai currently has a handling capability of around 2.5 million tons. We're forecasting in the coming 10 years to be handling more than 12 million tons. Now, buying airplanes is perhaps the easiest process. But as you touched on, it's legislation, it's infrastructure, it's the whole ecosystem. And that is something that Dubai is really light years ahead of. I think a very good example was earlier this year when the Red Sea issue started. A lot of, as some of you know, 1/3 of global air trade or global trade goes through the Suez Canal. Suddenly, for a number of weeks, that was blocked off. Now, what we saw, amazingly, was number of ships started diverting to Dubai. And they knew that Dubai had this infrastructure where we had an ecosystem at one facility, i.e. DWC, that provides both sea as well as air capacity. Suddenly, those ships were offloading cargo, we were putting it on aircrafts, and within days, it was reaching final destination. And that agility and that flexibility, that is something that Dubai is really known for. And of course, it all starts with the ecosystem. It all starts with, belief, from central governments and leadership. Ram, you pointed out, for instance, Liège, and we see numerous examples around the world where cargo hubs are being built. But then you often see that things are not in sync. The airport is trying to do one thing. They want to grow the business. The airline is trying to do something else. And the government has, a separate agenda. And Dubai is probably one of the few places in the world where, honestly speaking, we can soundly say that all entities, whether, for instance, if we take DWC Airport, the airport authority, the airlines, whether it's Emirates, whether it's Fly Dubai, and whether it's our government, they are all very clear on what our objectives are. We have to remain the preferred global trade hub, and we have to do that by continuously investing in technology, continuously investing in network and capacity, and of course, just being the best in class. And thankfully, we as Dubai, as an ecosystem, as a hub, have managed to do that over the decade, and I'm sure that that will continue in the future.
Thank you very much. Ram?
Just to add on, Dubai's strength is something that cannot be replicated anywhere in the region, except perhaps Oman. If it wants, it can do it, but they don't have the infrastructure. The strength of Dubai is the freight corridor that was created around 2010, 2011, and that was the last battle that I had gone into. Between Jebel Ali, DXB, and DWC, and Jebel Ali. That triangle, the freight corridor, is the most powerful tool that Dubai has to keep growing.
Excellent point made. I just want to highlight on this specific point. I mean, we are managing already-ish 3 million ton, and mainly in Dubai, and we are aiming for 12 up to 15 million ton capacity cluster, not only to cater air-to-air, but also to connect Jebel Ali ports, and also Etihad Rail, which is expected to be there. I mean, if you look at what's happening around, the new projects that are being built as we speak, they are potentially to come as big as Dubai today. Nothing to compare with DWC tomorrow. So I think we are in a great shape actually to cater that amazing growth that is actually coming our way and that we're going to definitely sustain together. I want to look to complete the picture on the supply chain stakeholder management and interaction. I want to speak a bit about the manufacturers, right? Because at the end, we transport goods. But I want to look at the manufacturing piece and get your view about how the manufacturing piece is growing within the region. And what do you think about near-shoring, or reshoring some manufacture from a place to another place, which also, of course, has an impact on the trade lanes and the regional dynamic. Maybe we continue with Nadim.
I think there's something that we picked up a couple of months ago, a term called forward globalization. And that really means with regards to shortening the transit times. And to your point, there are two ways of doing that. One is forward shifting of manufacturing. So a lot of the manufacturing, as we know today, happens in the Far East. There are active projects going on with some of the global Fortune 500 companies where they're moving for production into the Middle East and the region. And two is warehouses and forward storage of products and goods. And that's something, again, that we see very clearly happening. We see that in terms of demand. Right now, the demand for Dubai in terms of being one of those key global hubs for forward globalization is absolutely clear. I think at the moment, our biggest challenge is just ramping up the capacity as quickly as our customers and the industry need. We touched around air freight. Now, of course, we need airplanes. Unfortunately, we still rely on only two companies in the world, Boeing and Airbus. And as we've seen over the last few months and weeks, they are struggling, which is having an impact on capacity, air freight capacity. We as Emirates are, of course, impacted heavily, both on our passenger and freighter fleets. But as an industry, we are impacted. And, it's probably one of the few industries where still today, we talk about the 747s. I was probably born in the year the 747 started flying, and we're now 30, 35, 40 years later, and that aircraft is still being relied on to carry freight on some of the key trade lanes. And unfortunately, all these production delays at our manufacturing partners, i.e. Boeing and Airbus, are going to squeeze capacity and going to create challenges for the coming couple of years until they get their act together. But in the meantime, it gives us an opportunity to prepare ourselves, get our infrastructure in place. Also, we do a lot around digitalization. As we know, e-commerce has really transformed in terms of what we traditionally carry in air freight. I think if you look 20 years ago, most of our cargo used to be B2B. The updates, the transparency, the reliability was different. Now when you're dealing with B2C, they need a lot more transparency, they want a lot more visibility, they want live tracking, and that is pushing all of us to come up with new technology that will help us facilitate these customer needs. And that's something that I think will help us further optimize supply chains in the future, will help us cater with the growing demand in a more efficient manner, whilst we're improving the quality overall in the supply chain.
Thank you very much. We will definitely come to the point of digitization, machine learning and artificial intelligence opportunity very soon, because that's one of the enablers. Just on the manufacturing piece and the trend of reshoring, nearshoring, anyone else want to add up something specific? Amdi, please.
One thing we saw now, especially on the manufacturing, you see movement moving now from China into India, into Turkey, and now Africa is getting part of some of the Chinese moving their factories into Egypt, into Morocco, and some of the Midwest of Africa. With those shifts, obviously, it's going to play a major role in our industry, because now, as we can see now happening with the pharma, for example, out of India and out of Bangladesh, you cannot get a kilo out of this country because all the flights are full. Out of Dhaka, for example, or what's happened out of India, there is a lot of capacity into India. Out of India is, they're starving right now. They needed more capacity coming out because of pharma is playing a major role. Some of the factory, especially electronic goods, also moving into India. So we've seen that shift. The shift is happening right now. As you know, also in Saudi with the Vision 2030, what's happening also, Chinese going to start manufacturing into Saudi. With all that shift, obviously, we got a major role to play into that in our industry. And one other thing that you talked about, out of the AIs and the technology coming into the industry, one thing, and I proud to say, working for FedEx was a technology company with transportation on top. We used to sell technology. We did not sell transportation. First company in the world to do track and trace, scanning, all of this stuff came in early 80s. And that today paid the price. So we used to have a say, if it's a routine, you automize it. If it's an exception, you humanize it. And that's what the world we live in right now. And that's the way we should be looking at if we want to really move fast into this segment.
Thank you very much, Hamdi. Ram, you want to add something?
I want to just go back to a couple of issues. One is you talked about nearshoring and regionalization. Yes, that's driven by putting all your eggs into one basket, which was China. But that was being addressed. But one thing I alluded to that earlier is China has got scale that nobody else has. You have, wherever you nearshore or inshore, your cost is going to go up in production. There's a finite amount of skills available in most places. So that's going to be a bit of an issue. So China will prevail. Let's not kid ourselves. All the political things which are going on everywhere with the trade wars, etc., they will prevail. It's just that there will be a few others who are coming up, and most of them will be the Chinese actually producing in Vietnam and Thailand and everywhere else. So that is one side of it. The second side of it, the e-commerce, which is now predominantly the finished goods coming into the consumer directly. But what is going to affect and what will be the new commodity of the future? Now I want to take you 10 to 15 years from now. And I'm afraid that it should have already started happening. The major change in production and manufacturing is going to be the 3D printing. You remember in the olden days, they used to print newspapers. The Financial Times was being printed in London, and it was air transported to all those places and distributed. Then came the advent of technology. As the technology evolved, now it was still being edited in London or wherever the headquarters is of the newspaper is, but it's printed locally in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And while they are printing it, they are able to customize it with the local news, right? Now think about a situation in the future. Glasses.
Very good point. Thank you very much, Ram. I think that's a very, very interesting point. So the demand going to grow. There is an amazing growth opportunity in front of us. Some markets are untapped. Infrastructure are key. Dubai has led the way and is set to lead the way if we come together nicely and keep investing in new technology. Relationships are keys. That's brilliant. From a manufacturing viewpoint, China has a long life cycle ahead for the very specific root causes that you explained. And then that may move a bit southeast, but it's still within the region. Also, the 3D printing may have an impact in terms of spare parts and specific type of goods. So that's really interesting. By the way, what we are doing here is full machine learning. Just to finish on this, what is it? What is artificial intelligence? This is big data and machine learning together, right? So I think looking at your experience and already all the great insights in terms of big data, that sounds great. Your hunches are really, really insightful because of what you know and what you've been through already in terms of cycle from the past. That give us great variables to actually look forward and understand what's coming. So that's actually machine learning in action that we are doing with you guys. So that's really good. Ram, you wanted to add up the point?
Yeah, I just wanted to just continue on the 3D story. And I said there will be a new commodity that's going to be like pharmaceuticals and everything else. I mean, pharmaceuticals and perishables, they were always there. It's just that it got more exposure during the COVID. But the new commodity is going to be additives for the 3D printing. And that's something that we need to look at, whether it's going to be an ocean captive or air captive. That's up to us. I think a large part of it will be air captive because nobody wants to keep inventory. Inventory is produced just in time, and when it's produced just in time, it's got to get into the point of consumption very quickly. So the higher cost of air cargo is actually going to add economies in the overall supply chain.
Really good point. Thank you very much. We have 15, 20 minutes to go-ish. I want to complete with Robert, and then we will speak about digitization a bit more, autonomous transportation as we see the density increasing, cluster, how we can work better together and discuss about some live example, and last but not least, sustainability, because all of this must be done respecting the planet moving forward, right? So Robert, to finish on that specific point, anything you want to add up?
On the sustainability?
No, on the manufacturing piece.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, a lot has been said. I mean, a typical example, obviously, country that has invested in infrastructure and know-how and skills, everything that has been mentioned is India. India is today producing 50% of all the generica that go into Africa. And obviously, we have seen other countries also investing in infrastructure and production capabilities. And this is what I said earlier, the key, the production as such is probably not the most difficult part. The difficult part is really to get access to capacity, be near to the consumer markets where you at the end need to be, and be able to control the cost. I mean, obviously the scale, we all know in China, you can't duplicate that in any other country just because of the sheer size and the mass of people working there. So your cost will go up, and this you then need to compensate with smart solutions planning, and this is then, you know, basically the link to the whole digitalization part.
Great. Thank you very much. On this, I think this is a good time to start asking your views on last mile and how drone and autonomous flights will support the demand, which is growing in a city that gets more and more dense and region that get more and more dense, to get closer to the customer with, of course, a neutral carbon footprint at the end. Where are we on this? Do you think it's only experimental? Do you think it's ready and it's going to come soon? Ram, would you like to start?
Sure, I can. In terms of technology, it's already there. We can access the last mile delivery very, very quickly with drones. But is it going to be practical at this point in time? I don't think so, because there's a lot goes behind anything that's up in the air, which is regulatory. I initially see these drones more flying between hub to hub or facilitation center to distribution center, satellite distribution center, but I don't see it going directly to individual homes. At this point in time, there are experimentation that's going on because the regulators have to get involved. You can't have multiple amounts of drones just flying all around in an unregulated way, because it will create huge issues both on the ground as well as up in the air. And don't forget, these last mile drones will be competing with the air taxis up in the future. So you need to have, first of all, the regulatory authorities will have to start creating corridors and lock in different types of drone operations into these corridors. I am personally involved in developing the next generation of unmanned freighters, large commercial freighters that will be capable of carrying 100 tons. It's easier to have an unmanned airplane flying on normal commercial routes than last mile drones operating within the city.
Okay.
So that's where I see it. We still have a long way to go. Technology is already there.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Hamdi?
Ram, first time I'm going to tell you I agree with you. Due to the fact is we have tried a lot of the big company, and just to give you 3 examples. One, the Airbus. Ram and I, we about 15 years ago, for 10 years, we spent time as FedEx and Emirates and many others to do the A380 as a freighter. And we spent 10 years. After $1 billion, we had to flush it down the drain due to the fact is it was way ahead of its time, it's too costly, and on. If I look into the most technology advanced region in the world, and I look at the AI, and I look at the drones, and I look at where the technology is, they're way, way behind. The reason is it's too expensive, and nobody have the stamina to spend that kind of money on it at the time being right now. So I know there is a company in Abu Dhabi, and I happen to be with them for quite some time just to understand where it's going to go, how they want it, what their mission, vision, value, and all of that. And a year later, they had to squash it. Why? Expensive. And being in that, I think until then, including what Ram talked about, regulatory and crowded in the sky and all of that, and safety and security and all of that, it's going to play a major role. So I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. But what I can tell you is going to happen, electric airplane will be in the air sooner than we all expected. And I think by 2026 to 2027, you will see more cargo airlines with electric airplanes, which usually, just take an idea, to give you an idea, an average, the cheapest in town, if you do ACMI, per hours may come out to $2,500 per hour. Electric airplane will be less than $300 an hour. So with that value for money, I think that's what's going to play a major role into like intra GCC, intra India, intra US and all that. I think that's where I think it's going to happen before a drone really gets in our hands.
We start to see the solitaire middle-mile drone, actually.
Absolutely, that's what I'm selling now.
So, very insightful. Thank you very much indeed. Back on the ground now, and to the point of working together, being digital. It all starts with data, right? At the end, it's all about our capability to record data real time, have proper data model, properly cleansed, clear data governance, data standards, and all of that needs to connect together somewhere, right? To then start computing. And then you start seeing the machine learning effects only at that stage. That only at that stage can bring the artificial intelligence element, right? And today, I think in our industry, we are still, all of us, very much struggling to record data real time and organize it properly. If we have to work together in one cluster, right, and start exchanging data across a multimodal framework, that becomes even more complex, right? It's not a bill of lading, it's an airway bill, then it's a CMR, it's truck, it's trial, so, and all of that needs to connect. How you see this moving forward? Are you working on any specific use cases that you are willing to share? I mean, I'm looking at Robert because this is maybe at the heart of DP World business model. Please, Robert.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is actually the key of our strategy. And, you know, coming on as a new forwarder, we have many forwarders already, so that was not the prime aim of DP World. But we have developed our so-called tech in a box, where we are obviously doing everything from, you know, the CRM side, then over into quotation, into the rate depository, then the workflow tool, then the purchase order management down to SKU level. This is going to come. We are developing this. It's not an easy task, but this is what we are working on. And then once you have all this data available, then you can then obviously start sharing it with your partners. That is going to be something new we're also trying to work on, how this can be done instead of using all the, you know, the current platforms that have evolved. Ultimately, for me, it can only be API. between the carriers, the ground handlers, and ourselves. That's the only way I see. But as said, it's going to be quite a bit of a way. But for me, the biggest challenge in all this, and it's us, it's the consumers. If you can tell me that you are going to buy a new TV set XYZ in 2 months from now, and you say, I'm going to buy a new car then and then, that will make life a lot easier. But all marketing departments are doing the reverse. They are offering you last-minute, customized choices. And we have always been talking about e-commerce. I mean, it's not e-commerce as such. There are a couple of major players in e-commerce, but all the big companies, they all have omni-channel strategies. And just one example I would like to give, there's a big fashion manufacturer who was present in 20 countries. And in December, the CEO said, we are going to open up omni-channel, and as of next year, will be present in 200 countries. So this just lets you imagine what this means on the supply chain, on the whole logistics, and the entire data management that you need to do.
Great feedback. It's so insightful, and that gives actually another dimension of the picture we are drawing together. Thank you very much for that. Hamdi.
I wanna answer you on 3 points. Point number one is the world we live in today is no longer CRM, no longer customer experience, no longer white gloves or customer intimacy. All this is gone. 8 years ago, it started customer expectation. All of us gets on the plane to travel somewhere. Do you really care if that airplane A380 or Airbus or a Boeing or any other manufacturer? When the door is closed, you sit in that seat, you expect it. When you go to the bank, you expect it. When you go anywhere to do anything, you want to ship a shipment or you want to receive a shipment, expect it. We live in a world of expectation. As a result, I don't want anybody to experience anything on me. I don't want anybody to have my information. I'm expecting to receive this at that point the way I want it. That's the world we live in. That's number one. I'll get to your point. Number two, the most critical and important thing for us today in this industry is how to get quick organized, put our hand together, air, sea, and ground. In the good old days, we used to have NAFL, we used to have the express industry, we used to work with the post, the other used to work with NAFL, with the freight forwarder, and the ground operation used to work, the land transportation, we used to work together. At those times, the best critical years of the history of Dubai, 1990, 1995, and move on. From there, we took Dubai from not even on the 50 ports in the world to the 5 top ports, sea, air. Why? Because we all get together, we make sure those empty planes going back to whatever destination, they were filled with some of the goods, paying even just for the fuel to get them out. And as a result, Dubai became favorite destination for sea air especially. And a lot of the people that I can see here in the crowd, they understand exactly what I'm talking about. So we need to get back into that, number two. Number three, nothing in the world can beat Dubai when it comes to hit the ground and run. Push the button and get it done. Nobody can beat Dubai when it comes to that. And that's what gives me that right to say we are on big things to happen very soon in the future, and we need to really capitalize on it. If anything, we need to capitalize on it from the ground operation to the air operation to the sea operation to all together be able to get the customer to like, the customer who's expected to like to come into Dubai, to use Dubai as a hub and as a place to do business.
Thank you, Abdi. Willingness is here. Still, we have to define the data model to connect all the stakeholders, right? And do it.
Absolutely.
Ram?
Yeah, I just want to add on to what these guys are saying. As the generation who started collecting data, and when we collected large amounts of data, but we had no clue what to do with that data. It was the data scientists who came in and started, saying that you can do such and such things with that. So then came the advent of artificial intelligence. What is artificial intelligence? It is just data analytics.
Plus
So
machine learning.
purely data analytics, and is the quality of data that's coming in, that's being analyzed and being pulled out. And that is now giving rise to machine learning. Okay, now the quality of machine learning depends on what kind of data is coming in and being fed into. So we are still just scratching the surface at the moment. So what is likely to happen in the beginning? You will be using this data, the artificial intelligence, to support what you are doing. And gradually, then as the machine learning improves the situation, it will take over and can take over from the basic tasks in the human, from a human being, where the human being can be redeployed, and you don't discard the human being. The human being has got to rethink, what can I do better with the technology that's evolving?
Yes.
So the mindset of the human being has got to change. Robert talked about companies, predictive technology, where if somebody goes and asks for a red suit, a red jacket, is it available? And it can be produced very, very quickly because the information is going back to the manufacturer. A company which has been doing that very successfully for the last 15, 20 years, I think, is Inditex, Zara. These guys, they do that. You go into a Zara showroom and you're looking at all these clothes that you have. You wish you had it in green. And if you mention that to the salespeople, within 2 weeks, you will have that in green. It's just that 2 weeks is going to shorten as the artificial intelligence and the communication technology sort of improves. So that's where we're going towards.
Very true. Thank you very much, Ram. Nadim.
I would just add that artificial intelligence and machine learning is, of course, a fact of life already today. Many organizations already are using these technologies. I think there are two challenges that we have. So, for instance, as an airline, we use artificial intelligence when it comes to internal process reviews. Our colleagues on the engineering and maintenance side, when it comes to preventative maintenance, forecasting maintenance requirements, use technologies such as machine learning. So within the organizations, I think many companies around the world are adapting it. I think when you're looking into a supply chain, an airline, an airport, a ground handling agent is one piece of the puzzle. Unless everybody is standardizing and harmonizing the technology, we won't get the maximum benefit out of it. And I think at this moment, what's preventing that is, one, the fear around cybersecurity. What if, as a company, you put yourself up in the cloud? What are the concerns around cybersecurity? And two, around data governance. And I think, unfortunately, if we remember earlier this year, there was an event where one of Microsoft's firewall providers in Washington had a blackout. And then suddenly, one company in this whole IT ecosystem went down in the US, and you as a patient in Tokyo was supposed to have an operation, but your doctor couldn't access your files anymore from the cloud, and your operation is being canceled because a company in Washington went down. And that is some of the concerns that a lot of people have right now when it comes to artificial intelligence and data, machine learning, that to really maximize the benefit, it has to be full connectivity. But to do full connectivity, it brings risks. And how do we manage those risks?
Really good points. Thank you very much, Nadim, on the cybersecurity element. And what a great example. Indeed, we all remind that. Gentlemen, you will not believe it, but actually the 60-minute flew already-ish, right? So we have 5 minutes to wrap up, and I can still see everyone in the room. So that's good news. You've done a good job, and you actually interested all of them. So well done so far. Wrapping up, of course, I want to touch on the sustainability elements, right? Because I think we all understand we have a bright future ahead of us if we use all the ingredients that we are lucky enough to have in Dubai and make it happen together in a digital way, but also in a sustainable way. So what are your view, your action already today? We had a very inspiring COP28 event in UAE. UAE start to actually walk the talk more and more, and that's a topic as well that will only grow, right? So what's happening from your lens, and what's your view on that? Nadim?
I think a number of things are happening on the sustainability front. Of course, in the aviation sector, some of the key initiatives are around, for instance, SAF, Sustainable Aviation Fuel. Now, we as airlines globally, I think, are all fully supportive of that. At the moment, the challenges are around, the supply chain of SAF and having the ability, to produce enough to actually provide it, and also provide it at a price that is acceptable to consumers. But then, of course, in the air freight and in the logistics sector, you're talking about digitalization. You want to reduce papers. We talk about using more and more sustainable energy sources. So, for instance, our new air freight logistics hub that we're building in DWC, solar panels, fully autonomous and fully rechargeable machines, as well as vehicles moving around the airport, harnessing sunlight energy from various things. So I think a number of things are happening around sustainability, and I think this will become more and more important in the future. I think for any business, technology and sustainability, if both these things are not at the center stage, it's going to be a struggle. So I think as Emirates, we fully recognize and fully understand the importance. We're investing heavily in it. But again, to get the maximum benefit out of it as an air freight industry, as a logistics industry, it's all about doing it together. And I think that's really important. A number of entities and industries around the world are perhaps already further than some of the ones that we have to rely on. And it's making sure that everybody moves together in one direction at the same pace. And that way we will hopefully get the best outcome in terms of sustainability and make this planet healthier and hopefully livable for many generations to come.
Thank you very much, Nadim. Ram?
Yeah, in the interest of time, I'm going to just focus on airplane technology for sustainability. It's not fair that the aviation gets beaten up so much on the environmental issues, whereas we contribute less than 3% of the total pollution. But looking at the future, what do I see that the aviation is going to benefit from? Something that is going on in the road transportation. The future, I think, is going to be zero emission. To achieve zero emission via methanol fuel cell technology with a small propulsor, which would continuously charge an electric battery on board. And that is, to me, that way you can extend ranges. You talked about electric airplanes, but they are limited by the quantity of battery you can actually carry. But if you're continuously charging that battery up in the air, you can extend the ranges and thereby achieve zero emission. Can the air cargo, the industry achieve net zero by 50? Yes, it can. But the biggest challenge is going to be for the air cargo industry, where 70 to 80% of the airplanes that we operate tend to be the freighter later, the old technology, and that has got to go through a tremendous amount of change, where there will be a requirement for new built airplanes which are more fuel compliant, emission compliant than the old technology. So watch this space. Those people who think, the freighter later is going to work, you will be in for a surprise, because the regulatory compliance is going to be so tight as we go into 2035, 2040, that these old technology will start being have to be taken out of service.
Absolutely. That starts actually to be built in the IFRS framework, for instance, from a pure governance financial viewpoint. Absolutely. Hamdi.
But methanol to me is the methanol electric. Methanol fuel cell electric is the way forward for aviation.
Yeah, since I'm the new kid on the block now, getting back into this, I would say sustainability is a very important thing from us from day one. As a result, our aircraft must be the latest model, so with the engine also new in the engine, making sure that we looking into the future. In 3 years from now, we're introducing, I signed with 2 electric airplane manufacturers. We're going to be probably the first in the region to introduce electric airplane by 2027. Also, we're looking into make sure keep the main thing the main thing. That's what sustainability is all about. Making sure the rule of 1, 10, 100. If you do it right the first time, it's gonna cost you only 1 time, not 10 times, not 100 times. Those all things add up to the basket of sustainability of today.
Thank you, Hamdi. Robert, the final word.
Yeah, obviously what the key around this is to make people aware and really show them what their CO2 emissions are by mode of transport. And then by combining the mode of transport, really be able to showcase what the savings are. And you know, everybody talks about sustainability, but then at the end of the day, if you ask people, yeah, what can you do to contribute and how can you measure your contribution or your reduction, then it becomes a bit tricky, because a lot of these models that are out there, they use a lot of data that is available, but it's not priority data, because it's not based on the actual movements. And this is the example I gave before about India using short sea. We talked about sea air. This intermodality is definitely going to be a great contribution to the entire sustainability efforts.
Thank you very much, Robert. As we should do in the aviation industry, we should be on time. And I think I'm very glad to wrap up and conclude that panel on time. A nice segue we spoke about in January. Actually, the next panel is about MRO in January, so that's a very nice segue to continue. But before we continue, I would like to thank you very much indeed for a very enjoyable panel from a facilitator seats and hopefully from the crowd as well. So, gentlemen, thank you very much to everyone. Have a successful day.
Thank you so much, Gideon. Thank you, gentlemen, very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, in something that is not quite Dubai, we're ahead of schedule and we're going to run straight on to the next panel. So don't move anywhere, because this panel, as Gideon just said, is going to be quite an interesting one. We're now going to be talking about the future requirements of airline engineering and maintenance. With that, I would like to please welcome our panel. First up, we have Chief Executive Officer of Joramco, Fraser Curry. Chief Customer Officer of Rolls-Royce, Ewan McDonald. Executive Vice President at Jamco, Don Wren. Vice President of Customer Experience at GE Aerospace, JS Sharbag. And your moderator, Senior Vice President for Corporate Communications of Emirates, Valerie Tan. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a quick reminder, out of respect to the panel, please keep the conversation to a minimal. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. A bit of a break, but this is the most exciting session. They kept us just before the lunch crowd. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to be the moderator for this panel, which is talking about the future requirements for airline engineering and maintenance. This is a whole different world from what most passengers actually experience. But the business of airline engineering and MRO is truly very, very broad. From mainframes to engines to avionics, components, cabin interiors, there are so many topics to explore. We can talk about design, manufacturing, R&D, to operational performance and lifecycle maintenance. But for today's panel, we're going to discuss developments in engineering and MRO against the backdrop of surging demand from airlines for such aviation services. especially post-COVID, and especially with the projected growth in this region, which is Middle East and let's say India. We're going to look at how MRO partners are using technology and other solutions to tackle industry challenges and hopefully make their airline customers happy. Yeah. On our panel today, you've heard a very brief introduction, but I want to say that quite easily the combined technical and business experience and expertise from our panelists, myself excluded, exceeds 100 years. So I really, really am looking forward to this discussion, to hearing from Ewan, who's spent, from Fraser, who's at Joramco since 2018, and he was previously with a Bahrain-based cargo airline, 38 years of industry experience. Ewan, 35 years at Rolls-Royce, having held a variety of business management positions, sales, marketing, engineering, product development. And then Don, who's at Gemco. This is the exciting part of aerospace cabin interiors from his early days at Boeing and then later at the US FAA until today. And we look forward to hear more from him on things relating to cabin products, from modification to certification and all things in between. And last but not least, Jayesh from GE Aerospace, who provides technical, commercial, and ops support to airline customers. 16 years at GE, engineering creds and technical product management creds. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Let's talk business first, shall we, gentlemen? Business, because everybody is making money at the moment. Look at all of your news releases. Everybody's profitable. It's all been good. But how has the business landscape really changed for you and for your airline customers since COVID? Maybe let's start with Joramco. Fraser, how has things changed at Joramco since COVID?
Thank you, Valerie. Good afternoon, everyone. Since COVID, the demand for certainly heavy maintenance of aircraft has exceeded everyone's expectation. The demand for heavy maintenance capacity far outweighs the actual number of facilities that can offer that demand. What we've seen, if you consider airframe maintenance globally, we always look towards North America, and you would see a very steady capacity through the heavy maintenance facilities, 12 months of the year. The model within Europe and then coming further out east was never traditionally that. It was always a very winter, seasonal driven market with a heavy trough through the summer. Since COVID, what we're seeing is that the demand has leveled out and become more like a North American model. Now, we feel what's driving that is the fact that people will say to me, you are a regional MRO. I don't think there's anything that I understand as a regional MRO. We are a global MRO, and if you look at the world fleets, it goes without saying that any wide body can fly in within a radius to Joramco, but 50% of the world's narrow body fleet is within scope or radius to come to Joramco. So there's no regional MROs as I see it. The demand is global. And when you look at our customer mix, where has it increased from? It's increased from all around the globe, Valerie. We're taking a lot of work in now from the Far East, from the Philippines, from South America. Europe is a major part, and obviously the Middle East is a major part of our activity as well. So we're seeing the demand increase and sustainably being able to look at it towards the future. Whereas an MRO like Joramco may only have been able to look forward to its order book previously for 1 or 2 years, we're now working with certainly the tier one, the national flag carriers, these airlines that have really phenomenal planning departments, have understood the need to sign multi-line agreements multi-year agreements. So that demand has peaked. We're full, everyone else I know is full, and we're predictably full for the foreseeable future.
That sounds like very good news. Is that why you've just announced investments to expand?
Indeed. We're very fortunate. Joramco is owned by Dubai Aerospace Enterprise, which is part of the Investment Corporation of Dubai, and as you know, then Dubai government. So we're very blessed to have a phenomenal owner that supports all our investments and capital expenditure. And we have taken the decision to invest heavily in Jordan, where we're based, for a number of, again, to use the buzzword, sustainable reasons. Manpower, the region that we're based in has a great sphere of influence and a catchment. And we have the land available to us. You know, many airports are at absolutely full capacity. You've seen the demand that's coming up rapidly from people investing in the in DWC here, you know, which is going to be the center of aviation globally. If it isn't already, it will be very soon. And that spin-off into the wider Middle East region is where we've seen the confidence and the confidence that our parent company has to invest. So yeah, we're just about to conclude our first hangar, a new wide-body 5-bay hangar, with 2 other hangars to come online in our next 5 years as part of our longer-term business plan.
Sounds great, like a great story for Joramco and for us in the region. Let's change track a little bit and look at an engine OEM and manufacturer. So, Ewan, tell us about Rolls-Royce. How has life been since COVID? How are you helping customers get their airplanes back into the air and making sure that they stay in the air?
Yeah, so first of all, it's great to be back in Dubai. I'm very grateful of the offer to be here in the panel, so thank you very much to Emirates. Yeah, COVID. I can't believe we're still talking about COVID after all these years. And I think the first challenge that we faced with our airline customers was actually bringing aircraft back into service. So lots of aircraft had been stored for many, many months, if not years. And in our industry, number one for all of us is safety. So getting those aircraft back safely, back into operation, to allow airlines to grow again was the first challenge we faced. As part of that challenge, we also had a challenge in labour initially. During COVID, people decided to do different things, change their career, and getting people back across the industry, be it airlines and also Rolls-Royce, back into this exciting industry that we're in was this part of that challenge of getting aircraft back. I would say COVID gave Rolls-Royce the ability to reflect where we are today. It gave us the ability to reflect on the future. It gave us the stimulus to transform our company, which we're still in the middle of, and that is multi-path. So one of that is sustainability. Lots of discussion about a pathway through to a sustainable aviation industry for many years. And the second thing is how we make ourselves a resilient company. So the next time there is a shock in the industry, then we're resilient to that and we're not lurching into restructuring. So these things came to the forefront of our thinking. As we stand today, this year, we will recover our flying back to where it was pre-COVID. So we estimate that flying to be between 100% and 110% of 2019 flying. So for us, it's been a long journey back, but it's great to see that demand back there. And as Fraser was saying, what we are seeing in the market is there is more demand than supply at the moment, and I'm sure we'll talk about some of those challenges.
Yeah, thanks, Ewan. Maybe we'll not go the order of the line, but since we're talking engines and engine parts, maybe Jayesh, you'd like to give your view on how it's been at GE Aerospace. Of course, the entity as a standalone, GE Aerospace, has just been over a year, I believe. How's business there, and how have you been adapting? We've been hearing the words sustainability, resilience. Are these common themes over in your patch?
Yeah, thank you, Valerie. First, I wanted to thank Adil and the Emirates Airlines for inviting us for this amazing week and at this great place. So thank you. I think I'll just build on to what Ewan and Don said. Coming off of COVID, the one thing that has not changed is keeping our customers flying safely, reliably, and continue to produce good quality products. I think the airline demand that, and there is no compromise on safety and quality, and then comes delivery. So you talked about GE Aerospace being a standalone business. Yes, April 2nd this year is when we became standalone business, and the intent was even get more closer to customers, right? Listening to them and continue to provide good quality of service. So, the way I think about this, what COVID has taught us is like the ramp has been tremendous, and you have to meet the ramp to meet the needs of the customer. So which means like you have to double down on the durability of components and durability of engines. Our customers expect us that every engine is durable, have very high time on wing so that they can meet their needs of the customer and also keep the aircraft flying in air and aircraft available for their missions. So that's what we did. A lot of investment has gone into on the durability of the components, but also building sustainable engines in the future. That's point number one. The second is as the ramp is increasing, the demand for shop visits also hasn't gone up. So how do we make sure there is enough capacity in the MRO space to be able to fulfill the needs for our customers? So we invested and declared an investment of $1 billion in our MRO facilities. Some of them is also based here in Dubai and in the region. And then out of that, $650 million of additional investment in supply chain. So those are the two things I would say. And then on sustainability, Valerie, it's all about the future products. How do we ensure as we continuously develop our future products that meets our common goal of industry towards the net zero?
I'll try and see if we can explore that a little bit in the second half of this panel, looking at future technologies, innovation. But first, let's move to Don to see how has business at GEMCO adapted or changed. I mean, are these themes that we're hearing also common in your business of cabin interiors when people are talking about resilience? I mean, safety is an obvious one. I'll take that as table stakes. Let's look at sustainability. Let's look at workforce resilience, making customers happy. So, what has changed, or how has things changed at GEMCO since, I guess, over the last 4 years?
Well, first of all, I would also like to thank Emirates for the opportunity for GEMCO to participate in this spectacular event. I'd also like to really commend the previous panel and also the panels yesterday. I think they really set a high bar and had some fantastic conversation and really good topics and information there. But like my colleagues here, I also can't believe that 4 years later we are still talking about COVID. I think when that really first started to impact our business in the spring of 2020, I don't think any of us had any idea of the magnitude of impact that would have global on our entire industry as a whole. And I'm going to speak from an aircraft interior standpoint, and I will touch upon engineering and manufacturing to a certain degree as well. But I agree right now there is way more demand for products and services than there is supply available at the moment. The overall supply chain, particularly for aircraft interiors, is not ready to meet the demand that is existing today and will continue to exist, continue to grow. One of the things that we heard yesterday, and we've heard this from a lot of different industry experts, I think Boeing, Airbus, and everybody tends to agree on these rough numbers of needing 40,000 new aircraft over the next 20 years. Well, obviously, all of those aircraft require a lot of interiors, whether it's seats, lavatories, galleys, all of those furnishings, and the current supply chain is not ready for that. One of the disconnects that exists today, I think, between, in Jamco, we're part of that supply chain. When I talk about supply chain not being ready, we recognize that, and so we're taking steps to address that. But one of the disconnects that exists today between the airlines, I think, and the supply chain is that even though, as I said, the impact really started affecting our business in the spring of 2020, I think by the spring of 2022, right, airline travel, particularly commercial airline travel, was pretty much back to pre-COVID levels. But from a supply chain standpoint, particularly from interiors, we're just now starting to come back to that pre-COVID level. So, really the impact for interiors and many other companies in the industry has been 4 years. And so while travel's been back for 2 years, it's really been a 4-year impact for a lot of the supply chain, for us and for a lot of our suppliers. And during that period, a lot of resources were lost really to other industries, particularly pharmaceuticals and the medical industry. When there's no work, no engineering work, engineers are going to look for that work somewhere else, right? So we had a lot of engineering leave the aerospace field, and particularly the interiors, to go work for either tech industry or the medical industry. And it's a real struggle right now to bring those resources back into aerospace, particularly the real experienced. I didn't want to talk too much about Boeing today, and I don't know if there's people from Boeing here today, but one of the things I heard them announce recently was a 10% cut in their staffing levels and offering early retirements. And so there's another opportunity for us to lose a lot of that knowledge and experience from the aerospace business. And so what we're really focused on right now at Jamco is rebuilding that so that we can meet the customer demands and continue to grow and develop that, understanding that these demands are going to continue to grow. What we have primarily been working on the last couple of years is really how do we expand those resources and rebuild that skill set. And what we found is that really we have to do that through some geographic expansion. So last year we've opened up a branch office in Pune, India, as a way to tap into the tremendous technical engineering resources that are available there in that country. We're also expanding manufacturing facilities in the Philippines as well. So while we still have all of our facilities in the US and in Japan, those are not going to be capable of meeting current and future demand as it continues to grow. So what we're really doing is looking at it from our standpoint, what can we do as a company to adapt to this new demand, but also have to look for our own supply chain base, right? Our own supply chain base is no longer capable. They've had similar experiences in terms of losing resources and losing capacity. I mean, we've all seen some smaller companies that just don't exist anymore today, right? So we've had to go out, source new materials in some cases, new suppliers, and really grow organically this new supply chain base so that we can be equipped to meet the growing demand in the future. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Don. Let's delve a little bit into this supply chain crunch, right? Because I think it's a bit different in the different industries. Maybe for the audience, try to paint a little bit of a picture. What does that actually mean? I mean, engines have X number of parts. What does the supply chain crunch actually means? Give a couple of examples and actually some examples of how you are trying to build that resilience working with your partners in the supply chain. Why don't we start with Jayesh this time and we come this way?
Right now. I spend a lot of time with supply chain. So when we talk about supply chain, whether you're building a new engine or an MRO, it starts with raw material. It starts with raw material, getting into forgings and castings.
You're talking metals and...
Metals, that's the raw
plastics.
material. Forgings and castings, so you shape that metal into certain billets. Then it becomes a finished part, and then you have to do machining, coating, and that's when the part gets ready, right? And you need all the parts to either make a new engine or an MRO. So when we talk about supply chain challenges, from a GE Aerospace perspective, one thing we're part of this is learn that it's not about just what we manufacture in GE Aerospace within our walls. It's also about the suppliers that we get our components from. And 80% of our parts are from our suppliers. So one of the things we have been starting to look into this is how do we make sure the suppliers are successful? Because if our suppliers are successful, then we get all the parts, and then we can supply parts to our customers. So we have been putting a lot of efforts in developing suppliers and being partners with suppliers, right? And so we have been deploying over 100 engineers in our top 15 suppliers globally, and making sure that we help them improve their yields. And when I say yields, is like every part has a certain scrap rate as they manufacture the parts, and improving yields means you can then make more outputs. How do we help them with better coating manufacturing processes? So that way, it's all about making sure the tier 1 supplier, the tier 2s, and the tier 3, the entire value chain is successful. So we have been putting a lot of efforts on helping our suppliers, and that has yielded some dividends, right? This is a long journey. This is not something that gets fixed overnight, but you got to start somewhere, and we've started to see some efforts. And the other aspect of things is focused on lean. And so you'll hear the word flight deck quite a bit from our CEO, Larry Culp. And so we've been focused on our proprietary lean operating model. It's all about taking waste out of the system, right? The demand is high, and so you got to make sure you are efficient, not only from a supplier perspective, but internally in our shops. So we're putting a lot of efforts on lean. How do we get process, start thinking about process and not just the results? And if we have a good lean factory, I think it can produce better outputs for the parts and customers. So that's the big thing beyond just adding resources and investment in capacity, is to make sure the entire value chain is successful.
Yeah, that's the bigger picture of sustainability, where people just think sustainability equals environment, but actually a sustainable business means making sure your ecosystem is successful too. I mean, Ewan, do you have the same challenge at Rolls-Royce with the supply chain, or are you looking at similar things at Rolls-Royce for supply chain? Are you fighting for the same materials as GE is?
So it sounds a very familiar life that Jayesh has just described there, but this is an industry-wide issue. It's across everything at the moment. And I would say the root cause of this, first of all, it was labour after coming back from COVID. We then seen the raw material demand, again, being more than the actual supply. And then the third phase, which we've seen, was the economic effects of some suppliers who didn't have a strong balance sheet, so interest rates went up, and some suppliers got into financial difficulty. As far as how we address that, so Jayesh is absolutely correct. It's hard work. It is collaboration with our customers and our suppliers. It is we've got one supplier where we have 50 people actually in that supplier, and it isn't to micromanage, it's to help with process, how they can lean, how they can do things better, and have a sustainable view of stuff. Maybe if I touch on MRO, because I think Jayesh covered the OE side of things. You actually have more optionality when it comes to MRO. And it's given us a view, as you're in the challenge of supply chain, what should we do in the future? So yes, you can have dual source or triple source for parts, but also embracing more repair of parts, which again is good for sustainability of supply, but also sustainability as far as the environment. and then putting more work, more engineering work into reuse of parts. So again, can you reuse? Even though you might have to do quite a bit of engineering to justify that, it's again good for that sustainability of supply chain and also for the environment. So giving yourself as broad a supply chain is really important, because that means you'll take the volatility out of the MRO, and MRO is very volatile because each engine can be quite different. Now, when you look at the challenge we face, you know, an engine can have 30,000 parts, and we in our supply chain, you have 3,000 suppliers, and the majority of those suppliers are really good and deliver, and it's just working that final few and giving and setting up your supply chain in the future to make sure it's more resilient and more sustainable.
I'd like to add
Sure.
to what Ewan said. The focus on repair is huge, right, from a sustainability perspective. And what we learned from COVID is how do you upskill the new labor force that is coming into it, into the right technology and skills for repairing all the parts. It's extremely important because, you know, we had a lot of labor that left during COVID, and making sure that they are as efficient as possible. There's a lot more focus on not only repair development, but also upskilling and training the labor force to be able to do it in a most efficient manner. That's key.
Thanks, Josh. Would you like to jump in on that, Fraser, about the workforce and upskilling? Because I know Joramco puts quite a bit of focus on that, making sure that the right skill sets exist.
Yeah, I mean, you know, touching on what the guys have said here, particularly Ewan's point, supply chain affects everyone in a different way, and the supply chain's in a kind of no-win situation at the moment. You know, they were hit with COVID the same as we all were, but then they were hit with in certain material shortages with Ukraine, Russia, what have you, and there's certain things that you can do to ease that burden by bringing more in-house. You know, we took initiatives to invest in machinery, CNC machines, buy our own raw material, start to fabricate parts. Very different from manufacturing, because as an MRO we don't have yet the approval to provide a Form 1, so we're providing fabrication services. And it started with things like seat tracks. But the guys were touching on the MRO side of it, and where I mean the supply chain is in a no-win situation. I can have a relatively heavy check come in for maintenance, but that aircraft may only be in for 30 days. And the typical cycle within an MRO maintenance cycle is that within the first 30% of that check, you should have inspected everything, you should have done all your evaluations, you should have ordered all your parts. You've now got 20 days, and with the number of aging aircraft being kept in fleets, some of the smaller operators are really struggling, where the larger operators have the benefit of being extremely professional and predictive in how they plan the preload. The preload being the material that's positioned as part of the fixed work that we know we're going to do. And a lot of people talk about predictive maintenance, and predictive maintenance is coming, it's partially here. But the larger, more proactive Tier 1 airlines are taking earlier decisions to change out items before the actual critical timeline is met. So lots of advanced ordering, lots of preloading to get items changed while they're in that critical maintenance phase. Whereas the smaller, less organized airlines will simply react to what we have found. And within MRO, within my MRO world, we certainly have no ability to go to the OEMs and call an AOG. So the partnership between the airline and the MRO is absolutely critical, because we need to have that relationship so that the airline can use their influence, their strength, their relationship with the OEM to get those just-in-time parts to us. But there are many occasions at the moment, the supply chain hasn't recovered, and we are finding that, we are having to pull aircraft. If you think of MRO as a production line of just aircraft coming in one after another, I get a blockage in my production line when the supply chain can't react to a structural part on an aging aircraft that nobody knew about, nobody could have predicted. So I have to take that blockage out of my production line. The airline doesn't like it, I don't like it, but I've now got to find another way of putting that delayed input back into that line, a line which I've already sold to my next customer and my next customer. So the knock-on effect is huge for everyone, and you're never going to please everyone in that equation. But I have to say, going back and labouring on the point, planning, looking at your preload, putting as much as you possibly can into the fixed element of the check is key. And the airlines that do that are getting their aircraft back on time. The other key point, Valerie, is really the partnership approach with suppliers and OEMs, particularly on really bulky items. Where we're based, where Joramco is based in Jordan, we're heavily reliant on large cargo aircraft to bring in those large items, nose cowls, inlet cowls, thrust reversers, whatever it happens to be. So for a number of years now, we've been forging relationships to bring the OEM forward and within reach of our customers. So the airline now, in certain situations, and it's a new, young, growing aspect of our business, no longer has to see us remove the part, send it away, bring it back. That in itself is hugely expensive, and we're now working in partnership with OEMs like Spirit Aerosystems to bring that to the coal face, a very old analogy, but to bring it to the front line so that we can turn that part round in a timely manner with that very short maintenance check, which could be 30 days. That is not a long time. So I think you just have to be very proactive, very close to your partner, to your airline, and you've got to be close to your suppliers and OEMs. It's about relationships and preload.
Relationships and planning. Anything that you'd like to add, Don, to the supply chain equation and discussion before we move on to the technology aspects of the business? No?
I think we've talked supply chain
to
I
death.
think people are tired of talking supply chain.
Supply chain, COVID, okay, let's not go down those areas anymore. All right, we'll try to segue to the next part of this panel where we like to talk about future technologies, what you guys are doing in your area to improve sustainability and stuff like that. But let us liven things up a bit with a bit of a rapid fire round. I have 7 sentences on my list here which are not completed. So I'm going to start reading the sentence and then you will complete that sentence in a few words, yeah? Right, number 1, this will go easy. The biggest opportunity in our industry at the moment is?
Efficiency through digitalization.
Efficiency through digitalization. Ewan?
Is a sustainable environmental solution.
Sustainable environmental solution. Biggest opportunity in our industry at the moment, Don?
For me, it's really the demand for all of our products and services that is out there today.
Okay, demand. What about you, Jayesh? The biggest opportunity in our industry at the moment?
It's artificial intelligence,
AI. Oh, that's actually a topic for tomorrow. Number 2, what customers want the most from us right now is?
They want capacity and they want on-time delivery.
Capacity and on-time delivery. Ewan?
They want availability of their aircraft to make money.
Availability of aircraft. Pricing didn't come up, Ahmed. What our customers want most from us right now is?
I think speed and agility, because I think that's the environment that they are trying to operate within, and that's what they need from us to support them.
Speed, agility, capacity. What customers most want from us right now, Jayesh?
It's on-time delivery and predictability, right? So that if you are be able to predict, the airlines can plan their operations, and they need that in a high say-do manner.
Noteworthy. Nobody talks about price. Nobody talks about contracts and stuff.
Taking
All
notes.
good. Right. Number 3. I see aviation in the Gulf and Middle East region as?
The future of where aviation maintenance is going to happen.
The future of maintenance. Ewan?
It is part of the region's DNA. The region has always had travelers, pilgrims, traders. Aviation just makes that a bit more comfortable, especially if it's Emirates.
Like that. Aviation in the Middle East and Gulf region is?
Extremely important to our global economy. I think we've heard that all day yesterday, and I think we heard that this morning as well.
Okay. Aviation in the Middle East, you see as?
It has huge potential and always supporting us to push the technology boundaries.
So nobody's actually singing from opposing, everybody's on the same song sheet. The opportunity is here, that's good. Number 4, our airline customers, particularly in this region, are, fill in the blank. Our airline customers in this region are?
Our airline customers in this region are incredibly important to us.
Very important to us.
Setting really high standards.
Setting high standards.
That make us better because we have to achieve those standards.
Don?
The word I heard yesterday that I like the best is driven.
Sorry, passenger?
Driven.
Driven passengers. The customers in this region are very driven. Jayesh?
I would say demanding, extremely futuristic, and huge focus on sustainability.
Demanding and futuristic. I think demanding is fair. Fairly demanding is good. Number 5, the business issue that keeps me awake at night is? Fraser?
I'm glad to say that nothing keeps me awake at night, because that's why we're leaders and we deal with it during the day. A lot of things I have a focus on, and it's about sustainability, ensuring that I'm creating a business that can keep delivering to my customers on time to a quality they demand. Sorry for the long answer, and I want to defer. I want Ewan's answer from the last question.
Is he kept awake at night is the question. Ewan, the business issue that keeps you awake?
It's the supply chain and delivery to our customers.
Supply chain. What about you, Don?
I think for me it's having the right skill set that we need to accomplish what we want to do.
Jayesh?
I would say supply chain and making sure that we deliver on the expectations of our customers so that there is a predictable delivery stream and they can make their missions and availability of their aircraft.
Keeping customers happy is a good reason to be awake. Number 6, sustainability is something that we at Joramco does. What is it? Complete the sentence. Sustainability is something that we at Joramco
focus on heavily, because I think as one of the panelists said, or you may even have said it, Valerie, sustainability has a much wider focus now, and it's sustainability of the skill sets that we have, and that for me is driving in new talent by increasing the number of students we're pushing into academies.
Okay, thank you. Rolls-Royce, sustainability is for Rolls-Royce?
Sustainability cannot be done alone. It takes collaboration across the industry and wider.
Don, sustainability at GEMCO is something?
You said sustainability, right? Yeah. Sustainability is something that I think we need to embrace in our business. It can't be something that it can't be an afterthought, which I think I think today, in many cases, it's still a bit of an afterthought. It's not being designed in from the beginning. It's something that if we're going to be successful at it, and I think we need to be successful at it, we need to embrace it, and it needs to be integrated into our products, services, and our business processes.
Jayesh, sustainability?
Yeah, for me, sustainability is it's a responsibility for today, but also to lay that out for the future. And as Ewan said, it's going to take tremendous collaboration from everybody to meet the goal, and we'll do that, and we'll pay every bit of it and part towards it.
All right, and the last question on this rapid fire round, which would segue to the session that we want to talk about technology. Try to answer in 1 or 2 words, or maybe 3 words. The technology most relevant to our business right now is?
Digitalization.
Digitalization. Even?
It's a technology we're developing for the future.
The future technology, I have to dig a little bit on what that actually is. Don?
I think the cool answer would be AI, but I think today, the more relative answer is actually cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity, that's an interesting one. Okay.
Yeah, we are under attack every single day, and you don't have to be a large corporation, even the smallest companies, particularly as they try to infiltrate smaller companies and get into the larger companies. I think it's something that it doesn't keep me awake at night because it's not necessarily my area of responsibility, but I'm very well aware of it, and I actually think today it is probably the most important technology that affects our business on a daily basis.
And Jayesh, the most important technology?
Yeah, for me, it's all about the breakthrough in the current technology to be able to meet the needs of the future. It can come in terms of AI and digital, but also pushing the boundaries of the current technologies and the physics to ensure that we have a sustainable future.
Okay, well, with that, thank you very much for your candid answers. Maybe let's move now to the technology development and innovation aspects. I mean, we talked AI, digitization. Nobody actually said robotics. Nobody actually said new materials, but please feel free to go down these areas if that's of relevance. Maybe we start with the engine companies first, Rolls-Royce and GE. Let's start with Ewan, right? Talking about technologies and the exciting thing that you teased us with, but didn't go into details about. What new technology are you working on that's that you're bringing to the market that will help airline customers tackle their challenges, sustainability or efficiency? Is there any specific tech for our non-benign environment in this region?
So there is absolutely lots, and we are absolutely committed to both investing money today in the products today. So we've announced £1 billion investments for our products today. But we're also investing in the products for the future, which are products that will come out in this next generation. When you look at that, you can look at it through sustainability, and we have 3 pillars of that. The first is having the most efficient engines out there, and we actually have the latest variant of the engine on the A350-900, which will come out next year, with an additional 1%. So to affect sustainability today, you must have the most efficient aircraft. We're also working on SAF. So all of our in-production engines are now verified to be able to run on SAF. In fact, I was on the first transatlantic flight with Virgin, which was 100% SAF, and it was the most unremarkable flight ever. Which is a good thing. And then the final thing is technologies for the future. And in this, we're looking at our UltraFan technology, which is all about improving efficiency. So versus the first generation of Trent, you're talking 25% fuel efficiency improvement. Versus today's most efficient engine, which is the XWB, it'll be 10% more efficient. And this technology can go across wide-body aircraft, it can go across narrow-body aircraft, And today we have ran the first demonstrator engine on 100% SAF. So already it is compatible. So there's lots and lots which are for today, and some of the technology which we're developing for tomorrow, we're bringing back into the engines of today to deliver in sustainability and cost for airlines today.
All right, thank you. Jayesh seems like he's wanting to jump in there because you have the guys there talking about trend going into 25% better. What's happening at GE Aerospace?
Yes. In GE Aerospace, we think about technology as today, tomorrow, and the future. When you think about today, it's all about ensuring our durability for our products remains high and stronger. So you've got to make continuous investment in that. As you can see, the product that we have right now in the market, whether it's the LEAP engine that goes on the narrow body, it's the 737 MAX or the A320 Neo aircraft from Airbus, or the GNX engine that goes on the 787 variant in Boeing. And it's all about making sure that they deliver their fuel burn, which is like 10 to 15% higher than their predecessor, to making sure that that continuously meets. And then the second thing from a tomorrow perspective is we have a new engine 9X, GE9X, which goes on the Boeing 777X aircraft. How do we make sure that that engine delivers the durability and time on wing? So what you talked about the environment here, right? This environment has been a tremendous learning for our products, right? The environment that we learned is it creates it makes the engines work harder because every engines have cooling holes, and when the dust gets into it, it blocks the cooling holes, and the engine then becomes unserviceable. So what we have been doing is working on a proprietary dust rig that we now have been testing our engines by inserting dust into the engine to make sure that our coatings, our parts work in the same environment when the engine gets in here and flying. So there's a huge focus of that from a tomorrow perspective. We tested it in our current engines, but also the new engines coming on board. And then when we talk about future, it's all about now pushing the boundaries and even having even higher fuel burn, more than the 15% than our current technology provides. And it's through our you might have heard the term, the CFM RISE program, which is the revolutionary innovation in sustainable engines, is one that you're pushing the technology boundaries to deliver even more for our customers. And second thing is SAF, right? We have been investing a lot in SAF. Our engines are now compatible with most of the SAF blends and variants are out there. And huge thanks to Emirates Airlines that we were able to fly 100% SAF in their 777 as well as the A380 aircraft. And then we'll be ready for the 100% drop-in SAF. So that's how we think about technology in terms of today, tomorrow and the future.
Actually, I meant to ask because GE Aerospace also does defense, right? And I know the propulsion systems for defense jets are totally different, but are you using technology share across both of developments on that side? You take and learn, the scientists learn for the civil aerospace engines as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think, being an engineer, I was on the G90 engine program that goes on the Boeing 777. It's always been what we call the read across and technology sharing, whether it's on the defense side of the business or on the commercial side of the business. It's all about making sure that today we are already working on the 2035 technologies. And then think about this like you open your cupboard and there are these shelves of different technologies, and then you pick and choose what technologies applies based on the needs of the customer. The voice of customers and the needs of the customer is the number one thing that you start off with. And then you take the new technologies to make sure that meets the needs, but then it is the integration of technologies, right? So there is a lot of sharing between the defense world, commercial world that we do to make sure, and then you have to manufacture those at scale, especially as the ramp up comes in. So there is that going on with that technology. The other thing, Valerie, I wanted to add is like you talk about technology, we're also thinking about how do we think about on-wing technologies, right? We talk about inserting technologies in the engine, but we have set up a Middle East technology center here in Dubai, and huge thanks to Emirates team, because it's all about making sure every engine has a different distress model as it flies into the different environment. So how do we make sure through our predictive analytics and on-wing technologies like foam wash that continue to deliver the clean engine and they can fly longer? So that's something Ahmed Safa keeps challenging us, and it's the partnership and collaboration to make sure that we keep the engines on wing to be flying safely and reliably.
Well, Don Fraser, we can't let the engine guys have all the fun when it comes to talking about technology and development, right? I'm sure maybe we start with Don. Would you like to share with us a little bit about the technology or innovation that goes into the development of in-cabin products, maybe not just the seats, but also galleys, laboratories, things that most people don't really think about, but it's really super important for sustainability and for airline customers.
Yeah. I think somebody actually said it, I think it was maybe even earlier today or maybe it was yesterday, but that the innovation within industry is typically always ahead of the regulations. The regulations are always several years, if maybe not a decade behind where industry wants to go with products in terms of innovation. Innovation particularly within cabin interiors, can be very, very difficult because we're faced with a whole host of, I want to say, prohibitive requirements, sometimes conflicting requirements. Right now there is as we talk about, particularly as we talk about sustainability, we're really just scratching the surface of sustainability, I think, right now within aerospace. Obviously, I think, one of the biggest contributions that I think we've made as a whole within industry, and again, it was also talked about yesterday, was, lighter weight products and how that reduces fuel burn and carbon emissions. And now we're sort of seeing the next phase of that, which is environmentally friendly materials and processes, right? But at the same time that we are trying to do the right thing by introducing much cleaner green materials, green processes, we're faced with a whole host of cabin safety requirements, particularly things like flammability requirements, whether it be heat release, smoke density, toxicity, all of that stuff that tend to work against you when you're trying to introduce or develop new materials or new manufacturing processes, including things like 3D printing, non-metallic materials. So it can be quite challenging. And I think sometimes when you look at cabin interiors, I think you will see that while there may be innovation in terms of functionality and really more on the electronic side, particularly as we talk about connectivity. I think yesterday we talked a lot about connectivity and the impact that will have not only on the flying passenger but on the operational side of aircraft as well. We'll also see a lot of impact. I think connectivity is an area that I think a lot of the cabin interior products will also benefit from, whether it's being able to, I think as somebody said, log into your seat, control your own IFE system, but we'll also see a lot more integration. I know even on Emirates today, right, you see the cabin crew walking around with handheld devices, right? So the next step is going to be to further integrate that into their onboard operations in different aspects of galley operations, for example, galley carts, the galley systems, in terms of being able to monitor products and be more predictive in terms of what type of products need to be on board and how those are managed. Materials is also an area that we at JAMCO have invested quite a bit in. Obviously, our core product at JAMCO remained labs and galleys, but we also, around 2010, started producing premium class seating products. And one of the benefits that comes out of that is that the design life cycle for seating products tends to be much more rapid than it is, at least in the past, it has tended to be much more rapid than what it has been for lavatories and galleys. And so having that seating product for several years enabled us to develop and implement many new materials, things like thermoplastic panels. So instead of the traditional epoxy resin panels, we developed internal proprietary processes for thermoplastic panels, which environmentally are much cleaner, much more friendly, the higher recyclable content, and much more reusability. Another area that we're actually working on right now is introducing circular products into the supply chain base, and not just with textiles, but with aluminum alloys. So, as older airplanes are scrapped and recycled back into the supply chain, we're looking at ways to take that recycled material, manufactured to new specifications, and then being able to make new parts out of that circular material and reintroduce that into the aerospace supply chains.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I think upcycling, looking at parts and how resilient they are, that's all very important. I mean, we've got a couple of minutes left before we have to wrap the panel, but I wanted to really talk about digitization with Fraser because he mentioned it a few times, and I believe that it's also a very integral part of operational innovation, I guess, across everybody's business. So maybe, Fraser, you could give us a quick summary of, you mentioned digitization being a very key technological imperative for you at the moment.
Yeah, I think if you allow me quickly to share an anecdotal story, I was asked by one of the two big OEMs a couple of years ago in a breakout session to design the aircraft maintenance hangar of the future that involved no humans. I chose to go and catch up some emails and have a coffee, because it's not going to happen in my lifetime unless you completely fundamentally redesign aircraft. The other aspect was that recently I was flying with Emirates Airline, and I was listening to a podcast. And I was listening to a podcast by the CTO of Amazon, who had been very lucky to tour Emirates' maintenance facility. And I think he was surprised at how much paperwork was still involved. And the fact is that AI, for most of us, has only been a buzzword for a few years, but when you listen to the CTO of Amazon, we've all been using AI for the last 17, 18, 19 years when we go onto Amazon and buy something. So aviation for me, and particularly in the airframe MRO business, which is heavily touch labor, we have to embrace digitalization when we can, and it's a little bit, it can't be form over function. Something as simple as the airline people here will understand, a dent and buckle check. For me to put a traditional assessment of that dent used to be 2 engineers, and it could take 24 hours. Now I can digitally scan that dent and have that information back with the OEM literally within minutes. So that's a very good use of digitalization. There's lots of technology that's been tried, and I think, as my panelists said as well, innovation is ahead of regulation, but regulation has to be in place. Aviation's like an oil tanker. It's very slow to change for some very good reasons, because safety is our #1 priority and always will be. So looking at something like paint stripping an aircraft, yes, there's technology out there, laser ablation technology, but it's slower, in my opinion, than traditional paint stripping and doesn't offer the advantages that we need now. So where we can, as an airframe MRO, we're now embracing digital technology in terms of the tablets, where we're going from paper to paperless. Now, that's not, again, somebody of my generation may well think, you're going paperless, you just want to get rid of paper. It's not about getting rid of paper. It's about being more efficient and eliminating the ability to build in errors into how you record your maintenance. So we work with a very smart system now with a supplier called Empower MX. That system is now rolling out onto tablets, which we bring in at the academy level, so our new students are working with those tablets, and artificial intelligence and machine learning, which can't be taken out of that equation either, is allowing the engineer to have more time at the aircraft and have zero ability to introduce any errors into how that work is recorded. And that's going to allow more time for supervision, more time to look at the detail. So not as sexy as the engine world, but we do what we can.
Not everything has to be sexy for it to be important, I guess. But all right, I mean, with 5 minutes left to this panel, I wanted to throw out a bonus question and an opportunity for everybody to give and leave behind a soundbite for your airline customers, keeping in mind that your customers really want to know what solutions you are bringing to the table to help meet the demand for new products, for the delivery of new products, for the need for maintenance to support the airline's growth, right? Keeping in mind this whole landscape of demand outstripping supply. What are you bringing to the table? You have, I guess, a minute and a half each to give your elevator pitch. What is the most important thing you want your airline customers to know about what you are doing for them or want to be doing for them? Who wants to go first? Ewan?
Yeah, I'll go first. So for Rolls-Royce, we've been about for 120 years, and I hope we'll be about for another 120 years. So as per this conference today, it's all about future thinking. So what my airlines want, yes, they want delivery today, but they want us to be able to deliver a future as well, a sustainable future. So what we have to do is keep on investing for products which are 20 years out, that will solve some of these challenges. Now at Rolls-Royce, we see ourselves as a force of progress, and we must take on these future challenges.
Thank you, Ewan. That was a succinct elevator pitch. Dawn?
I think probably what I would say about that, beyond what I've already said, is particularly for JAMCO, as I said, our core products since the inception of JAMCO have been lavatories and galleys. We did make a difficult decision about a year ago to put a hold on new seat product development, right? That was a new and exciting business for us, but with the situation that we're in, that the entire industry is in, we made that difficult decision, put a hold on seats, refocus all of our resources on supporting those core products of lavatories and galleys.
Thank you, Dawn. Jayesh, what would you like to leave your audience with? Airline customers.
No, I think I want to stay true to our purpose statement, is we invent the future of flight, lift people up, and bring them home safely. That starts with listening to the customer, that starts with ensuring fleet stability for our customer is the true north, and it goes back with on-wing and off-wing. How do we make sure we have the technology and continue to have durable products and investment for keeping the engines flying on wing, and then off wing to make sure that we continuously make investments in supply chain and MRO to make sure that we deliver for our customers when they need their parts. And the third thing is get ready for the future, right? Whether it's through AI or technology, we got to make sure that we listen to our customers, deliver for them, because if our customers are successful, we all would be successful.
Thank you, Jayesh. Fraser, last word is yours. What would you like the audience to walk away with?
I'd like the audience to walk away with the fact that MROs are becoming more progressive and more proactive rather than reactive in how they manage the challenges that our customers have. We are looking way beyond the horizon now, and that's testament to the fact that there is a labour shortage globally. We're developing our 147. Our training academy is second to none. We're building capacity for the demand that's coming, but we're doing it in a controlled management of change way. And I come back to the oil tanker analogy. We have to focus on the management of change because safety is the #1 priority.
Thank you so much, Fraser. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I could have gone on for at least another 3 hours because there's so much of information to delve in for each company, but unfortunately we've come to the time that we've been allocated for the panel. So please, can you give our panelists a big warm round of applause? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us today.
That was really, really interesting. Thank you so much, panel, and of course, Valerie as well. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of day 2 of Aviation Future Week. There are workshops still happening in the foyer area. Of course, it's by invitation only, but you're welcome to listen in. It's not a closed room. We will see you tomorrow bright and early for day 3. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Emirates.